Hello again. We've arrived at the 24th spot. And the 24th spot goes to Howard Staunton, born in 1810, dies in 1874. Peter, what can you tell us about Howard Staunton?
Well, he has won two unofficial World Championship matches, and that, of course, puts him on this list. That is the whole point. He beats Saint-Amand in Paris, 1843. Actually, this is a revenge match. He lost a match to him earlier the same year against Saint-Amand in London, but he wins the revenge match, and then 3 years later he beats Horwich at home ground in London. So that's basically one World Championship matches, at least by the standards of the time. And then especially his shown as world ranking makes quite an impression on us because, he's number one for 6 years and 3 months, which is a lot. So you think that he has excellent stats in the sort of areas that we count highly in world championships with 2 wins and with world rankings for more than 6 years at number one. Actually, one would say that these numbers are so impressive, he should be higher on the list. But probably he disappoints us a bit on the other areas, which is why we have him at 24. For instance, his peak rating is only 27.06, which kind of indicates that he probably hits a time in history where there's not that much competition. And also, he's actually the organizer of this tournament in 1851, where the world's best players are meeting, and I assume he hoped to win it and even reinforce his legacy like that, but he doesn't win it. I actually forgot who won it, but as far
Anderson.
as Anderson, exactly. So, he is the strongest player in the world for quite some time, and he managed to manifest himself as the world champion, but he's not a completely dominating force, and he also has his downs, which means that he ends up where he is as number 24.
Yeah, as usual, I struggle with these guys. From the 1800s, he broke the French dominance. No, they had this lineage, Philidor, Dave Chappelle, de la Bourdonnais, and Saint-Amand. He defeated Saint-Amand and, held that official or unofficial mantle as the world's strongest player. Also, the guy learned chess at, what was it, age 26 or something? Very, very late. And then some 8 years later, he's the world's strongest player.
Yeah, that is a bit off topic, but I think generally we assume that if you don't learn the game as a kid, you can just not become good at it. I think there is basically no examples, right? I mean...
yeah, which I'm not sure if he's the exception that proves the rule or if he proves that things were different at those times, or a bit of both. Probably a bit of both. We should also give him credit for his other contributions, not just as an organizer, but he came up with this Staunton chess set, which we're still using at every official competition, no?
Yeah, I don't know if we are fully using it, but at least it's, I think, often. Well, I mean, I think now we have World Championship pieces, you have Magnus pieces and such. Everybody have their own brand to some extent, but I think generally, you're right. It
became still the standard, no? Yeah.
Exactly. This is the standard. I mean, it's, you can make variants after that, but you cannot massively differ from it, right? And, actually, when I grew up in Denmark, we had sort of cheaper, different pieces. But this is basically, if you have a serious event, you play with Staunton pieces or something like that, right? I mean, I think also World Championship matches is played by variants of that. So, no, that is quite something. I think also maybe on a more chess influential way. I mean, he's renowned as an author at the time who was making
Chess Player's Handbook was big.
Okay. You read it?
No.
Okay.
I heard it's big.
Yeah.
Also, he was doing all kinds of chess writing articles and so on, no? Like for newspapers.
No, but you can see he's organizing an event in 51 and being the world best player, he's making chess pieces. So I was about to say that is unprecedented. Of course, Magnus would say that, I just organized the tournament, I have my own pieces. So not at all. I have my server probably. But I mean, I think this guy was doing it by himself actually, right? So.
Wow, so Magnus is trying to walk in Staunton's footsteps. We had no idea.
Just occurred to me, but yeah.
Yeah. No, but what I can say that also, once again, obviously, for the times, he seemed to be a very decent positional player. Yeah, probably quite ahead of his peers. I had the same feeling about Zuckertort a little later. Maybe he also studied some Staunton, because it was these quiet English openings and, putting pieces on good squares. So it's...
Yeah, it has some, I don't know, sophistication, we would call it positional understanding that, we have learned it from their games and later and such, but it feels a bit extraordinary to actually grasp these things at the time. But, it could be equal from our point, but I generally agree with you. You start to see things that looks like serious positional chess, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure. I'm not that well read on Staunton's career. After he doesn't win this 1851 tournament, his reign is over and the mantle gets passed to Anderson and then Morphy, I'm guessing.
That's my impression as well, yeah. But again, also not my...
Also, in these times, he was doing other stuff. No, he was a Shakespeare scholar, busy with that. Great organizer. So yeah, certainly interesting, very influential figure. As for the ranking, I struggle, as I mention every time, greatly how the 1800 guys compare to the new guys, but...
I have the same. I just think that we go for these kind of, in doubt, we go for the very core values, and that is 2 World Championship wins and plus 6 years as world number 1. I mean, I think according to Sonas, if we include Carlsen, Staunton might be just outside or just inside the top 10 of those who's been number 1 in the world the longest time, but that's still quite something. So that he drops to 24th, we're putting other factors there, but he was a dominant force for a very long time.
All right, let's have a look at one of his games. This is from 1851, I guess that very tournament we mentioned, against Bernhard Horwitz. I always confuse Horwitz and Harwitz, but they were both good players. Even though f5 makes me doubt. But already here we see some sophistication, which I learned, but I guess not early on, that if you haven't committed your d-pawn to d4 and they try to play the Stonewall, this plan playing d3 and going for an e4 break is actually a fairly advanced concept.
Yeah, I think basically at that point, when I was also growing up like you, I thought it was the refutation. Then maybe it wasn't too bad. I think even Magnus might have played it later or something like that, right? But no, that's also how we understood it, that the Stonewall is only effective if you can actually control the e4 square, which you can't like this. But
and I'm not sure if this was deep insights or if it was just the setup he liked to play against anything. C4, G3, Bishop G2, C3, D3, E3. Either way, it works quite nicely here. You can see after D5, yeah, he brings the bishop, all perfectly standard moves. And Horwitz is struggling a bit now that he doesn't have knight E4, where to put his pieces. The break comes pawn to E4. No, he's just getting outplayed.
Yeah, of course, you can argue that he's, as you said, he's just putting all his pieces at the same squares all the time. But, no, he's playing logical chess, putting pieces at good squares, while the other one is trying to be too sophisticated, very unsuccessful.
Yeah. D8, E5. Now black starts getting pushed back. F4, DC. I also don't like much. You want to give him this weak pawn, but it gives up so many squares. Now it's a different level, you can see here already.
Yeah.
And the finishing touches are pretty nice as well. Knight d6, some maneuvering, g4, once again showing a good positional feel, stopping knight f5. a5 was a threat, so Horwitz goes back. I'm not sure if a5, I guess you have other problems. But yeah, he's getting outplayed. And
yeah, it was me who chose the game. I forgot exactly why, but I think, it just shows a completely different level, and it shows a very positional understanding for something 169 years ago, right?
Also, there was a move I liked later on all of this. I'm assuming White is just firmly in control. Here, bishop e4, queen f7. I like this move, knight g1, which... yeah, once again, shows good board vision. If the knight comes here, it finishes the game. And it's not always easy to spend these 3 moves retreating a knight, but I think this maneuver just finishes it very nicely. Although g5 doesn't bring the knight here. Still, I like it.
Oh, but you forced something back. Now, I'm sure you can find somewhere else too.
Yeah, now it comes to e5, and that's it. Well, it's a demolition, but it shows, some good understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's against a dangerous rival, and it looks like the best player in the world, and just completely crushes someone who is it was Horvitz, right? I mean, who's supposed to also be very high on the list, and I think even had quite some years as world number one as well. So
I'm not sure. I'm not going to debate. As mentioned, I have a Horvitz-Harvitz problem.
Fair enough. Okay, so that was Howard Staunton, our number 24, right?
That was him. Thank you for watching.